Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Steve Turetsky, Director of Ag Solutions here at AgEagle. Very thrilled to be joined by Sarah Pickel from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture today. And we should have a really nice conversation. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Of course. So I'd love to get started just jumping right into your professional background, get your origin story, see how you came into the Department of Ag and ultimately ended up in the hemp program.
Okay, sure. So before the hemp program, I had been with the department for um, about 14 years as a contract employee through Penn State, working in our integrated pest management program. So I had a biology background and was interested in entomology, and so started out in that field and primarily worked with um, uh, conifer nurseries. It's a sort of a underserved sector in Pennsylvania, big Christmas tree state. So
Christmas
that's
trees, yeah.
yeah. So I did mostly outreach to that group. Did um, a nursery newsletter, a pest newsletter throughout the growing season to help them deal with Christmas tree pests. So that's really where my background is and my start of working with farmers in the state. Not a big jump from Christmas trees to hemp. Some of our hemp looks like a lot of comments we hear. Oh, these look
Totally.
like Christmas trees. So made me feel at home.
Love that. Yeah, that's so true. Some of those varieties, they do just branch out, right? Um, nice. So was it just an opportunity that you were in the right place, the right time to jump into hemp or?
Yeah, it really was, in a system where you've got a limited amount of plays. They're looking for, who can start on this new program when legislation comes through, and they're starting a new program, who can fill the gap. So it really just started as that, sort of filling the gap and doing both programs. um, that someone needed to explore hemp. I didn't really have a background in working with hemp, so started doing that, and then it gradually just increased, and then there was a new position created, and I started as the hemp program coordinator.
Get to leave the Christmas trees behind, huh?
Right.
How's it been running the hemp program? How have you kind of seen it evolve, and at least in your role and responsibilities over the last 4 years now? The
Um,
program's been.
yeah, we've been going since we started in 2017 was our first entry. So started out very small. We had 16 growers, permits that we issued the first season, working with researchers. So mostly there were university researchers, and we contracted with farmers also to do the research. So started out very small, and as the program evolved, we had more participants each year, and we've also had some more regulations to incorporate with USDA. So it's definitely increased since the start of that.
I'd love to pull on that thread a little bit more regarding the USDA regs. So you guys started your program under the 2014 Farm Bill, right?
Yes, yeah. So Pennsylvania had passed, to move in that direction. They passed the Industrial Hemp Research Act, which gave some guidelines that the department would create a program. So yeah, we started operating as a research, doing marketing and growing research strictly under the 2014 Farm Bill. Um, and then as the USDA, changed their regulations, moved into the 2018 Farm Bill. Um, we so With Pennsylvania, we had an existing legislation that we were able to work with, the Controlled Plant and Noxious Weed Act. So we were able to use the structure of that legislation and kind of move our program under there, which just meant we didn't have to pass a large legislation to make, to adjust. So, in that sense, it was really convenient.
Oh, yeah, that sounds really great.
So yeah, we had a structure to issue permits to grow special controlled plants. So we made hemp a controlled plant, and we're able to pretty much start issuing permits under that act pretty quickly. So yeah, that was convenient to be able to work with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then into the present day, did you guys have to make any kind of alterations when I guess 18 Farm Bill finally came in, and then I guess now interim final rules, or are they final now?
Yeah, so
I
once
think,
they passed,
yeah,
so we had, we had incorporated, there were changes with the interim final rule, and were able to adapt them. We did submit a plan for under the final rule of USDA, and that was approved. So Pennsylvania's plan has been accepted. So we've been acting under that state plan
congrats.
for
I know some states are
2021.
still
So
waiting to hear back, so that's exciting.
right, right. We like I said, I think we were at an advantage with having an existing legislation that allowed us
Right.
to move forward. We didn't have to draft entirely new legislation.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Nice. Um, so I'd love to hear how this year went. We're talking now at the towards the end of harvest. Probably everyone's got plants out of the ground now, right?
Right.
Just
So
about.
we are, yeah, yeah, we're getting net figures done on harvest. The year, um, it was a successful year. We had uh, 426 permit holders, growing permit holders this year, and we had about a little less than 400 acres planted, which we did see a decrease from last year as to acres planted. I think we had some, you know, just some weather challenges, and some people possibly having hemp stores from last year left over. But
Mm.
it was a success. We were able to visit more of the farms this year. Last year it was a challenge being under the lockdown and dealing with COVID situation. So this year we were able to get back out to farms and see how things were going. So that was really beneficial, and saw some really good results, some good hemp crops planted with that. So that was nice to be back out and see that, see how things are going. But we did have a successful year. I'm anxious to get our hemp harvest totals tallied. That's as the harvest reports are coming in. Actually, this week is our deadline, so
Hmm.
we'll have
Nice.
some figures on that soon. But um, yeah, I think I'm positive overall. But like I said, a little, definitely acreage wise, we're down from last year. We had about
What would you say? Oh, sorry. Go.
Yeah, we had about a little over 500 acres planted last year, and so we're
Sure.
down from it this year.
20% ish drop. Yeah. What would you say the average crop size is nowadays, like per farm?
Um, so we have a lot of small farms. It might be hard to make an average, but a lot of our farms, I would say, are definitely planting crops of 2 acres or less. I think, that's the majority of our farms. We do have some larger farms, larger plantings, but in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of small farms, and we have some cooperative groups going, some hemp cooperatives where they're smaller farms working with a processor or a larger group. So our farms are smaller, but they've figured out some ways to work together cooperatively. So um, I think,
I think that's great.
yeah.
Compared to where the industry was a couple years ago, I know in Colorado, I mean, my farm specifically, we were growing 100, 200 acres a clip, in a single field, and it's cumbersome. This is a super like manually intensive crop that you can't just, broadcast seed and let it grow. So
Right.
it's honest. I think it's a little bit refreshing that, you guys are seeing a lot of small farms out there participating, 5 acres less, 2 acres less. Like you can really grow a high quality crop that way.
hmm Yeah, it's very labor intensive, and you know, yeah, labor I would say is an issue. Just the harvest
Mm.
time is quick now. We did see a little bit of more flexibility with the so last year they were trying to harvest in 15 days or less under the interim final rule. So USDA did adapt and gave them 30 days to harvest after sampling. So that, I think that helped a little bit with the intensity of the labor, but still a lot of work. So
Totally. That is a great modification. That 30-day limit definitely helped a lot of farms out.
yeah. Yeah, we definitely heard, that in our comments to USDA, that was something that we were able to share from the farmers, farm response. That it was just a tight window.
That's very cool. I guess that dovetails nicely into one of the questions I was going to ask, just about Department of Ag and farmer communications. Do you guys have a formal process for how you receive feedback from farmers about the program itself, modifications, improvements they want to see?
Um, we do have a group in Pennsylvania that started from the department and farm the beginning farmers and some of the universities. It's called the Hemp Steering Committee. So that's cooperative, um, basically an advisory committee that tackles the issues of hemp and relays. We were able to have communication with them. So it's a group that meets quarterly. So we, that's a really great avenue for when there are issues, like when we were preparing for our new program. Just getting feedback from that group is really, has been really beneficial, and it's a nice, it's a good structured way to get that feedback. So yeah,
Yeah,
they've
that
been
makes
really
sense.
helpful to us. And also when
Anything
there's
on that? Oh, please go.
sorry, just when there's other issues that arise, if there's an area where, they need to focus outreach or focus education, they've been really helpful with, that group can take that on.
That makes sense. Anything hot button coming up, like as that we should be, looking at in terms of what the steering committee is looking at for, a year, 2 years out? I know minor cannabinoids might be one that's kind of on everyone's top of mind.
Yeah, that's excuse me, sorry. That's been an issue that the state will be looking to address at some point. Cannabinoids like the Delta 8 is a very big issue. So I'm sorry.
You're
We'll
fine.
be
I was
looking
just
at
coughing a
having
second ago too.
we'll be looking at having some sort of, in Pennsylvania, we don't currently have um, legislation or regulation for hemp products. So some other states, we do regulate the processor um, up into the, that we have a registry of processors. But as
Mhm.
far as the back end of that, the products coming out, there isn't specific legislation for that. So at some point that'll come down the line. But and that's something that I think the steering committee has discussed and is looking to, give their, opinions and suggestions to not only to the Department of Ag, but to the Commonwealth in general.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's a good
yeah.
one of the real quick. I'd be curious, like, is that something that the state is going to have the Department of Ag take on in terms of final product and processor, or is that more Department of Health?
Well, that is
TBD.
the question where where it best it would be regulated. We do have a Bureau of Food Safety in the Department of Ag, and whether it will fall on that end or if it will come under
Hmm.
Department of Health. I know some other states have created their own separate cannabis commission when they're dealing with multiple. So it's not really clear yet where that legislation will fall, but I think at some point that's something that will come, will be needed to help to guide products.
Yeah, I think that that's what a lot of states are seeing is, regulation is good for downstream products. We have to have food safety. So I think it's a matter of, like you kind of spoke to, like deciding who wants to take that on, because it's a big project, and especially one that doesn't necessarily have a ton of federal guidelines. So it's kind of like making it up as you go, or like
Right.
picking another state model that might have been doing it before that you like.
Yeah. So that'll be determined, and I'll see what my role in that
See how that
is.
affects your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep putting stuff on the plate. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to turn to some more farmer focused things that are coming up in the field. I know that since hemp's been growing now, different places around the country for 5-6 years now, we're starting to see some more normal crop issues arise, right? Like pests and different things. How's Pennsylvania's hemp kind of responding to the elements of the environment?
Yeah, we've seen that, the first couple years that we grew, it seemed like, they were, kind of outside of the issues not really affecting it. But, a lot of our cropland where hemp is being grown is, coming from traditional cropland. So, where it's been planted in corn before, or soybeans or nearby. We're seeing a lot of caterpillar pests that affect corn or other crops that have moved into the hemp. I think that's probably the largest pest issue that, we've been hearing about, the different lead pests that are affecting it. So as the pesticide availability for those crops, we're still pretty limited with what can be used. So I think some of the outreach from um, Penn State will really focus on some of those pest issues. They've been, as a partner, Penn State really does a lot of the outreach to farmers for the department, really works hand in hand with the department. So that's, I think, an area where we'll see, just some benefit to the farmers to having some programs from Penn State. So they've been really, really beneficial. And so that's been one of the largest ones. We did have a really rainy season this year, so not necessarily a pest problem, but the rain really impacted a lot of people. Just in some areas we had really significant rain, so we saw a lot of damage from excess rain. We saw some rot because of that. So that was a big issue in PA. Also, I know sometimes it's a benefit to have a significant rain, but sometimes it's
Yeah.
just when it comes in large volumes, an
We'll
issue.
take some of it here in Colorado.
Right. I know
Definitely.
that's out west. You'd
Yeah.
like to take some of that. Yeah.
Oh man, we would love it. Yeah, hemp is an interesting crop like that, where I always used to say like hemp doesn't like getting its feet wet. Like it just wants enough water to do its thing, and then it wants to drain out.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it really just is, it's hard to predict. We have a lot of the majority, I would say, a lot of our CBD farmers grow with, they're using irrigation in the crop just for when it is dry. But this was a year that didn't have to use. It
Turn
didn't
the water
have
off.
to be
Yeah.
used much. Yeah.
Yeah, too much of a good thing for sure.
Yeah. So, I think as maybe as we see some more products become available for farmers, or just using some organic techniques to help control those caterpillar pests, I think that's something that people will be having to work on.
Have you seen anything happening in genetic innovation to kind of combat some of these issues, or we're still kind of young for that?
So we do have some, part of the 2018 Farm Bill, or the final rules, included some details for researchers. So we saw some more researchers be involved this year. We do have researchers at Penn State who are working on genetic development. So that's something we're
It's
looking
exciting.
forward to see where that comes from. We also have um, uh, another Penn State group that's doing just some variety trials. As there are new varieties available, and just to see what best works in Pennsylvania. So I think those projects, will really be looking forward to hearing the results of those, just to see how they can benefit the Pennsylvania growers.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, so I think that's where, we'll see some of the success come from, varieties that are just keyed in on our unique environment.
Makes sense. Yeah. Let's see what else I want to ask you about. Where's the general distribution of farms in Pennsylvania? I'm a Philly native, and I went to school in Pittsburgh, so I'm
Okay.
assuming most of the grow
Yeah.
happens in the middle of the state, right?
So yeah, probably our biggest concentration is that southeast quadrant. So Lancaster County is in that, and Chester County, really big farmland. But we do have crop growing in the majority of the counties. So out west, there's the western part of the state seems to be where we've had some more fiber crop grown, just based on businesses out there that are interested in that. So we do see it across the state, but yeah, Lancaster, Chester County are definitely our biggest, I would say our biggest areas. But yeah, it's good to see that there is interest all across the state, but
Is there
yeah.
any crossover with the medical marijuana program? Do you guys communicate, like work on combined policy initiatives?
So we have worked, yeah, we do work very closely with them. So some of their, we've been adapted to them with um, for the medical marijuana grower processors. We've allowed for there's a radius around those growers just to make sure that their crop is not affected by any pollen. So that's something that we've agreed to with them. We work with them. They've been really they've allowed our program to use some of their labs. So they started before we really had a system of testing. They had labs registered and in place, so they allowed their labs to be testing our hemp last year as the program um, expanded to be testing every single lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was really beneficial. And I think moving forward, we actually had there was a new legislation passed on their program this year that their grower processors could accept hemp grown under Pennsylvania's hemp grower programs. So that was new. They were totally separate before, but now they can accept hemp that's grown under our programs as long as it meets their testing status. So that's just another opportunity for our growers
Yeah.
to provide their crops somewhere. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
I'm sure the CBD can be put into THC products and sold through that chain. Oh, that's great.
we're pleased to see that happen. So we really work pretty closely with them.
Yeah, that's great. It's so nice that they were able to lend some of the testing side of things because that is where I feel like the bottleneck is in a lot of states. So is it a third-party lab system you guys work
Right.
with, or
So
is it state-run?
yeah, we use third-party labs. So we have this year developed a registry of our own, but a lot of those that registry includes those labs that also are testing for the medical marijuana program. And they are able to use out-of-state labs as long as they're meeting
Oh,
what
great.
our reporting requirements are.
That's nice flexibility. I'm sure that has eased since you mentioned that you got to like most fields this year. I'm sure that eased some of the bottleneck created by like everyone's harvesting at the same time. We got to get
Yeah.
all these samples run, get acceptances out so people can get these plants out of the ground.
Right. So in Pennsylvania, last year we started a certified hemp sampler program so we certify sampling agents to go and visit the farm. So that's been a really successful program.
Outsource.
Right.
Yeah, makes your job
So
easier.
they,
Yeah, that's really smart.
yeah. So I mean, and it seems to be working with the framework of what the regulations we have to follow.
That's great. That's a really nice way to build some efficiencies into the program.
Yeah, and USDA, had that the materials and the things that they provided that was really helpful in getting our system up and going.
Cool. Yeah, I remember hearing some states are even passing their programs back over to the USDA to kind of manage from an application standpoint. Is that something that Pennsylvania is looking at, or are you
Right.
guys going to keep managing your
Um,
own system?
yeah, I don't think that that's something that we're going to do since we have the plan in place and it's been, we've
It's
been able to
robust
work
and
with it.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't
that's
think that
great.
that's in the plans, but yeah, I know that they have been able to do that in some other states.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of time, like in some cases, like smaller states with tiny programs where it's only a few licenses. So it's like, why have a whole department?
Right.
Makes sense. Um, so kind of changing gears a little bit, we've been touching on CBD and the cannabinoid market. Obviously, that's the side of the market that got the industry kind of getting its legs under it. But I've always been really interested in the industrial side and all the different applications there. Have we seen any kind of innovations or developments in PA? Farmers interested in that side?
Yeah, so we have seen that grow. It's something, like you said, that had started with a lot of people interested in the CBD, and we still do have a number of growers under that. But we've seen some new some uh, programs that have started. There's one of the recipients of some of Pennsylvania's specialty crop block grant funds is a company out in Western PA, um, Dawn Enterprises. So they have worked with some partners to do uh, basically some construction work in some renovation work and housing in the western Pennsylvania, the western part of the state. So they're looking at using their, the hemp grown under their program, and so that's been really beneficial. They've have some partners with Penn State. There's a housing center at Penn State that they've partnered with, and the Parsons School of Design in New York City. So that, there's some definite innovation that I think we'll see coming out of
Hempcrete
that.
houses coming soon?
Hempcrete houses, yeah.
That's cool.
So, and the getting the processing side, decorticators and that, that side of it, I think is something we're still, that's still in development. So we'll hopefully see that that taking off really soon.
That's
There's
exciting.
yeah,
You
we
got
have
some
another
more? Yeah, hit me.
builder. Yeah, we have another builder. There's a, a hemp tiny house that's been developed by a building company called Coexist Build. So one of the hemp permit holders co-founded this company that's working on hemp tiny house kits made from hempcrete. So that's
Oh
an
wow, tiny
exciting,
house kits. So you buy it, they send you the stuff, the plans, you can build it.
right? So that's
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So just there is definitely some innovation. The marketing bureau from the department, Phil Stope was one of our Department of Ag employees, that he's been out there, trying to encourage different business groups and investment groups, insurance. They've been doing some presentations just to try to get that, to get the interest built. And so I think the department's really excited to see it grow,
That's
the
cool. We'll have to do a
industrial side.
podcast with some of these guys. Shoot, bring them on.
Really
That's
interesting
cool.
folks, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Penn State. Are there any other universities that are kind of working on hemp stuff?
Um, so we do. We've had Delaware Valley University doing some of just some grow variety trials, and um, we have Wilkes University as one of the new research growers. Cheney University is one that's done. They're doing some research on the product side, the CBD product
Hmm.
side. So it'll be interesting to hear to see reports from these and how the innovation that they're going to come up with.
Yeah, it makes me really excited, especially just being from Pennsylvania. I love that there's so much unique activity happening.
Yeah, yeah. I think, it seems like, getting it, researching all the different aspects, the industrial, we really could see some growth with that, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, and I think now that the market has kind of bottomed out and we've had, the hype and the boom and bust cycle kind of have a once over, I feel like now people that are still interested in it and are still around, like, are now kind of pushing the envelope and innovating again because I feel like the business model is almost like more stable in terms of like what the market looks like.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And I think as we're we s- the processing licensing this is the second year that we've been doing licensing processors, so we're getting a better picture of who is out there and doing what. And I think um, we'll hopefully see the industrial processors grow to meet to meet that demand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's hemp to do it and there's products that are being sold, then naturally
Hmm.
someone's going to fill that gap.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I love hearing about what's going on in Pennsylvania. Uh, Final question, which is probably the most impossible question to answer in the world of hemp, but love to see what you think about, 3, 5 years out. What do you think the program looks like? What do you think the industry looks like in Pennsylvania?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like like we mentioned about the industrial side, I think we'll see, the other side, that industrial side catch up. There has been interest in having the processors, so we really, I think having the companies that are interested in it in the building materials, getting the processors in, I'd like to see that. We're actually putting, more construction materials into place. You know, whether there's, bioplastics, there's a lot of areas to expand. I think we'll just hopefully be seeing the industry build around that. It's a difficult to call to say where, how the growth will happen. And, but I think there's a lot of potential for it. So, um, yeah, I just think that that side of it, seeing, the industrial side come along, I think that's going to be something that we'll see a lot more of. Um, but yeah, it's a difficult
Oh
question
yeah.
to answer, but we're trying to help as best as we can. The states, um, the department has some resources. That we have an online mapping system that where we show, provide information, contact information for our growers, for the processors. So hopefully by having that information out there, they can make connections and build business. We really like to see that side, the connections made. And I think just by having education, we have a group, the Team Pennsylvania is one of the, a nonprofit in the state that has been putting on a hemp summit for the last 2 years. So
Mhm.
that's something, educational outreach. I think by making more of these, more of these educational things, I think we'll see hopefully some connections made there between growers and processors to build up the industry. So hopefully it'll be
It's
exciting,
fantastic. Hey, I mean, if
expanding.
it sounds like Pennsylvania has a really great baseline foundation and infrastructure for things to grow on, right? Um, Both on the, processing side, the communication side, farmer side.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
fantastic. Nice. Well, thank you so much for your time. What's the best way for people to contact the department if they have questions or want to get in touch?
Well, all of our contact, we just did a web update, so hopefully it's a little more user friendly. Agriculture.pa.gov/hemp is our hemp web program, and all of my contact information are program contacts on there. So that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Fantastic. All right, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome, Steve. Thanks.